Good morning, good morning. Thank you for being here this morning. We are so excited to be part of this session today. I'm just going to introduce myself and tell you a little bit about what we do and how we arrived this morning. I actually live in Dallas, and Luz and I are coming from Dallas. So we took a plane this morning, and we didn't know, I swear to you, we didn't know we were going to be videotaped until we arrived here. Otherwise, we would have made different arrangements because I get very weird when I have a camera in front of me, but we didn't know it until we got here. So it's kind of exciting, but it's kind of new. And we thank you so much for being part of the session this morning. I'm Vivana Hall, and what I do for a living, I work as the academic director of the first dual language university that is coming from Puerto Rico to the mainland United States. Is anybody familiar with Ana Jiménez University? Anybody here from Puerto Rico? Yes. So Ana Jiménez University has some campuses in Florida, some campuses in Maryland, and for the first time, they are bringing a campus to the state of Texas, and they happen to select Dallas as the place where they were going to have their campus. So I am one of those blessed to be part of the starting team, and I'm working as the academic director for imagine that, what you do in dual language, but at the higher education level. So all careers are bilingual education. We're going to have nursing, business, education. Everybody who graduates from our university will be a bilingual person. So we're super excited about this opportunity. And with me today, I have Luz Roth, who is from Sherman ISD, and she's a teacher in a dual language one-way. How many of you are one-way programs? Only a few one-ways. How many are two-way then? Most of you are two-way. That's super exciting because this is what this is all about. The two-way programs. In the back, I'm going to introduce some of the associates that we're here with. It's Wally, Larry, Frank, and they're all from ETL and Open Book, and some of the companies that we are going to talk about today that had helped us to produce a study for integrating elements and resources that will help us to structure from the beginning a true path toward biliteracy. I'm going to let Luz introduce herself, and then we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay, my name is Luz Roth, and I'm original from Colombia. So you're probably going to be
How many people from Colombia? I didn't say that before,
at
least one.
All right. Okay, like she said, I'm a teacher. I have been teaching for 20 years. I did kindergarten, first grade, second grade, and this year I'm doing fourth grade. So I moved from kindergarten last year to fourth grade, and instead of having one class, I'm having two. Because we couldn't find another bilingual teacher, so I'm doing two classes at the same time. So yes, for me. So that was the thing that for me to trying to find things that they can help me in my classroom that they were in English and Spanish. But we're going to talk later, and I'm going to show you those things that we're going to use in the classroom, okay?
So the reason why we decided to talk about the path toward biliteracy is precisely because that's probably one of the biggest challenges in the dual language programs. I don't know if you can agree with me, but I know that in Europe, there are already a lot of researchers that have been going on that are now getting the answers for multiliteracy education. And I almost feel like we're, something from the past, from decades ago, that we're still trying to figure out bilingual biliteracy, when in Europe, they're already working with 5 and 6 languages and figuring out how to get multiliteracy happening in the classroom. And during our session, we're going to show you some examples of Open Book and some examples of Rourke, which are the resources that we use. What we did is actually, we analyzed these resources, we took them inside the classroom, we tested them, and we made them part of what we do so that we can create this path toward biliteracy. And basically what we do is responding to two questions. The questions are why and how, and that's the way we're going to conduct this session today. So why? And when I say why, what I'm trying to narrow down is all of the challenges that we go through as teachers in dual language programs. And now that I know that my majority in the audience are two-way dual language programs, that is something that is incredibly exciting for me, because usually when I'm talking, most of the districts that I go to are one-way programs. So you have students who are learning Spanish as a second language combined with students who are learning English as a second language. And how many grade levels are represented here? Anybody from kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade? Any fifth graders? Yeah, usually, oh, one, good. Usually by the time we get to 5th grade, we see less and less teachers in dual language programs, but imagine the proficiency levels. And I know that here in the state of Texas, we like to call it 4 different proficiency levels, but for the purpose of the whole nation and the way this is studied globally, it is actually 6 levels of proficiency that we're dealing with when we're teaching students a second language. And everybody familiar with the cup theory, the common underlying proficiency area? So we know that whether we're dealing with one language or 2 languages, all of that knowledge is going to go in the same area. And we know that the basic interpersonal communication skills are usually what we see more often than the cognitive academic language proficiency. So not only we have the different levels of language, we also have to remember that there is basic skills and there is cognitive skills that we're going to be dealing with. And I know that you probably know most of this, so I'm just trying to get everybody on the same page to think about why do we have all these challenges in the classroom. So not only we have the proficiency levels, not only we have the social language versus the cognitive language, we also have the language domains, which we divide in what? Receptive and productive language. And when we think about each of those language domains, we know that within those language domains, we have different proficiency levels. So we can deal with a student who is an emergent writing, but is already proficient speaker of the language. Have you ever seen anybody like that in your classroom? Right, so that's the reason why we are always thinking about, if we think about what we're really trying to do in order to establish a path toward biliteracy, we're actually first going to analyze all of the challenges that we have. So whether the language 1 is Spanish or the language 2 is English, we have a lot of models for the acquisition of language. Most people use sequential models, which means that you are first establishing a great foundation in the student's native language and moving on into the second language as a transfer from your skills developed in the native language. How many of you think that you are probably part of a sequential model in your classroom? So you're establishing a very good foundation in the student's native language, whether it's English or Spanish, and you're helping the student to move on and transfer all those skills into the second language. What about simultaneous biliteracy? How many of you are doing that in the classroom, where you're doing both English and Spanish reading at the same time? Can you think of any of your, maybe not your classroom, but maybe somebody in your building who is doing simultaneous biliteracy? Most of the programs are sequential. Very little research has emerged for teachers to be able to apply a simultaneous biliteracy program. So not only we have, how many things do we have already that are challenges? Proficiencies, what else? Social language versus academic language, what else? What was the other thing? The domains of the language, which are what? Receptive and productive, writing, listening, speaking, and reading. So all of those things that we have already talked about. Then there's sequential models, there's simultaneous models, and on top of that, lots of methodologies. Lots of methodologies, a lot of strategies that can be used to help students developing the 2 languages. We can talk about CALA, and it'll take us the whole session. We can talk about SIOP, and it'll take us the whole session, but I know that you're familiar with content-based instruction, because we have to be able to provide a context for students to be able to learn and develop a second language successfully. Not only that, we also have the ideas of having a sequence into our process of instruction that will make sense to the students. So how many of you use the 5 E's in the classroom? Well, after today, you probably will be using a lot more of the 5 E's, because we're going to really work a lot about integrating what we're doing in the classroom with the methodologies that make sense for second language learners. So I basically have gone through a list of things that are the reasons why it is a challenge to teach a second language in a classroom. We also have seen that there's a lot of different methodologies and a lot of different strategies within those methods to be able to learn. So checkpoint usually means that I'm going to ask questions and you're going to have the answers, but since I did it a little bit ago, I'm sure you still remember, right? So can you remember about the challenges of second language learning? What would be one of those challenges? Proficiency levels, what else? Social versus academic, what else? The models that we use, what else? The methodologies in the classroom. What's one that we're missing still? The 4 domains of language. Okay, so what we're going to do now, since we already are all in the same page and we already know that these are all challenges that we have in the classroom, I'm going to introduce you to some of the resources that we've used for a period of at least 1 semester that we found that are incredibly helpful. Open Book, for example, we found that it was incredibly helpful because it supported all the 4 areas or the 4 domains of language. We also found that it was a methodology that supported transferability of skills, and if we're doing sequential programs, we definitely want to pay attention to things that help us with transferability of skills. And also, we know that there are some things that are not present in the native language that has to be explicitly taught into the second language in order for students to be able to have that knowledge. So when things don't transfer, we have to teach those things that are different. So we found that this was a very good tool. And in fact, some of the control icons that the program comes with, and this is a technology-based program, a program that's in the computer, we found that most of those icons that were different ways in which the student interacts with the program facilitate listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And I'm going to give it now to Lou so that she'll explain specifically how she was able to utilize these technology resources and make it happen in the classroom so that you can build a structure for a true path to biliteracy. So tell us, Luz, what else did you do? And this is the funny thing when she's talking in the dual language environment, and I'm going to go ahead and anticipate that when she moves over to this wall, she speaks Spanish. But when she moves over to that wall, she'll be speaking English. So I'm trying to get her to move this way so that she can begin on this side of the room.
Besides that, I'm a 4th grade teacher and also the bilingual coordinator. So one of my jobs is to try to find curriculum that is going to be useful from pre-K all the way to 4th grade that we had in our school. And right now, everything is technology. So the first thing I was looking, that it has to be technology. I was very amazed with Open Book and Rogue because they had so many books, they're virtual books, and so many materials that I was able to use in my classroom. Remember, since we had a specific time to go to the computer lab or few computers in our classroom, we need to find other ways to do a whole group activity or activities that we can do in a small group or activities we can do with a partner or things that we can do in centers or things that we can do independently or things that we can do sent home. So that was one of the things, the requirements I was looking when I saw the 2 programs. Another thing is that make sure that I was able to use the 5 E's, make sure that I was able to accomplish TELPAS because I wanted to make sure that my kids learn proper English to be able to get, to the place where they need to be. I need to make sure that their blooms were there because remember, they had to take a start and how rigorous the vocabulary is going to be, and that's exactly what I saw in their books and their materials. And also to make sure that I cover all the ticks, and especially that they're all aligned. That if I start in kindergarten, I can see the alignment between K, first, second, third, and fourth so far, okay? So one of my biggest things was also to use Bloom's taxonomy. So when I saw all the pieces together, I said, yes, this is the program I'm going to use. But that doesn't mean I'm going to replace what I had in my school. I'm still using my programs that I use through my district. I still use all the things that I'm supposed to do, covering the ticks, but it helped me to get additional resources to be able to be successful in all the content areas, especially because they had thousands of books, and they're all unbelievable, the colors. And besides that, they had comprehension questions, and they test the students. And when they test the student, they're going to be able to show me what level that student is in, and then I'm going to be able to place them, and also I'm going to be able to do any kind of intervention in my small group or what kind of assignments I was going to do at home. So what I'm going to show you, exactly the same way is here, is the same way that is going to be in this display. So the first area we had listening. So what I did is the students are going to be able to do this in the computer. And they're going to have many different games with the sounds. I'm going to use the SH, that is the hardest one for us, especially me that I learned English as a second language, and also that you know that when you learn English as a second language when you're old, it's very hard to get that accent away from you. But when the students are small, they're going to be able to be without any accent from the beginning in English and Spanish. So that was one of the sounds that was hard, and we don't have it in Spanish, so that's the one I use. And how I integrate this sound where it was fish, but at the same time I integrated with books looking at anything live in the ocean, and how I integrate the reading and writing, and how I did also the Spanish, where you'll be able to see over there that you can have activities from kindergarten, and they be able to do how to use different books that in English and Spanish that connect what I'm doing also in Open Book and Rogue. Now, the good thing is that when you have these activities that they're doing it in the computer, I can be able to print those and be able to make the small centers. And I'll be able to copy stuff, and I can be able to copy the books. So if you're lacking materials like I do in Sherman, you'll be able to print those and send them home as one of the tools that are going to reinforce the reading. Now, I'm going to go over, let me see. I start talking and then. So this is how I had 4 computers in my classroom. So now I always set up then for a small center. I do enrichment in the afternoon after school program, and that's one of the things I give them an assignment, because I'm going to record here, I'm going to record their assignment. So I'll be able to tell them in English and Spanish what they need to do from listening or speaking or reading or writing, what kind of book they need to be, and what level that they're supposed to go. Another thing is, and then you're going to be able to see here your chart of sounds. Look all the things I did just with that chart. I'll be able to pick at that chart and look what I did. Sounded first and then find the picture with that sound. So I just make the little laminate then. I don't have to use it again. They can do it over and over. And what I did is made 6 copies for that small group. And what I also did, I made 2 copies and I put it in a center. Then again, find the picture that starts with the sound and write the word. In every center, I create writing and reading. Look at this one here where they had the word with the SH. So they had to spell the word, and then they had to say it fast. So what I do is remember beginning sound, ending sound, say it fast, say it slow, and that's how I build fluency. Another center is they had to see the picture, but I see this picture in all my activities that I use in Open Book. So what I do is I pick up the flashcard, and that flashcard, they had to find real pictures also that had that SH sound. They have some samples here that they be able to write it, and there's some samples here that they be able to use and look for those pictures, because the idea is for them to use technology. So I want for them to go beyond just the materials that we have and go to Google, use the iPads, and be able to make their own books. Here the sound, they spell and write the letters using magnetic letters like we normally do, but it's another activity so you'll be able to see how I pick up these material from the program. Another one, match the sound, different sounds with this sound, and then of course I go to the speaking part. In the speaking part, you'll be able to use the words where they're going to be able to talk, but I use a strategy in my classroom that is, if you see over there, you're going to see observar. So I let them look at one picture, and I said, everyone to observe. Okay, I'm going to switch. Look, I'm switching size. Entonces les digo a todos, tienen que observar. Y nadie habla, solamente miran el centro. Cuando ya miran el centro, les digo, identifiquen. En este caso era, ¿qué? Pescado, ¿sí? Y en el pescado o pez tenían que describírmelo. ¿Qué es la descripción? ¿Viviente o no viviente? Después, las características. Si es un ser viviente, ¿cuáles son las características? Cómo nacen, cómo crecen, cómo se reproducen, cómo es físicamente, quién es su peor enemigo, qué datos interesantes acerca del pescado, todo eso. Y atributos. Si yo les muestro una foto, qué color tiene, qué forma, qué tamaño, qué textura. Entonces, esta es una de las actividades que uso constantemente con cualquier foto. Y no solamente queda lo que yo estoy hablando en conversación, sino que transfiere ¿a dónde? A la escritura, porque eso mismo lo van a escribir. Esta actividad la hago en grupos pequeños, la modelo como whole group y después la hago en parejas y después puedo mandar cualquier foto o cualquier libro y me lo pueden hacer independientemente. ¿Sí? Continúa acá.
No sé
A
si todavía
switch.
tienes tiempo, pero ya llegó el libro.
Oh, good. Miren acá uno de los libros que uso en el Rogue, que entonces cuando yo asigno aquí qué es el trabajo que ellos van a hacer, les digo, tienen que escoger libros, en este momento de ciencias, que sea en grade level, y also that they need to be arranged from, I will say, second grade all the way to sixth grade. So I'm the one who can assign those, and I make sure I tell them there. So that's what they need to go to the computer and assign their books. And they have the freedom to pick up the one, but it has to be related to what we're doing. So what I like about these books, and I'm going to show you here some of the books, you have the cover, and then in this case you had a timeline, you had a glossary, and you also had the assessment. And that's the part I like it more, because how many times you had any kind of books or any kind of programs, but it doesn't give you that assessment for me to be able to know if my student really comprehend what they were reading. Now, the good thing about the assessment is that immediately it's going to give me a report. In that report, it showed me how many questions they answered right and how many questions they write wrong. So what I do is when I see that if that student missed more than, 70% or even 50, 60%, what I'm going to do? I'm going to bring in a small group, and then I'm going to be able to see what was the things that their student did wrong. And that's how I'm going to work. Normally, I just had to go back to the glossary, that is the vocabulary, and I do a timeline. So now you'll be able to see a map that I use a lot in my classroom. This one will be the plot and summary. So I pick out one of the books, and then they talk about the characters, the setting, the problem, the major events, the resolution, qué género, because we forget about that one, y I wonder, yo qué pensaría si esto, ¿ves? El I wonder is one of the key things, because remember in a STAR, it's not just answers there, it's think beyond that. And that's why these mappings help me a lot. What I do at the beginning when I pick up the book for first time, I introduce it as a whole group. But then what I do, I pick out a book that relate to that I use in the levels that they are, and I give to each group. But they still had to follow the map, and after the map, what they need to do. They had to write a summary about the filling the earth with trash. That is one of the things that I need to do to prepare my students for the start writing. That is going to be pretty soon, and they're going to be able to tell, you're going to be able to use a narrative or, any kind that you want. Now, another thing I use big time is using Bloom's taxonomy. So you see my chart here, and I pick, let's say Monday, I'm going to use, everything is conocimiento y comprensión. Martes, I'm going to use aplicación. Miércoles, análisis. Jueves, evaluación. Viernes, síntesis. Pero cuando yo cojo la área que yo voy a enseñar ese día, escribo aquí las preguntas que yo voy a usar. Entonces, mira, yo siempre les digo, yo quiero que ustedes observen y quiero que clasifiquen para que después analicen y puedan evaluar y me den un producto final. ¿Cuántas palabras y verbos de Bloom's usé en solamente una instrucción? ¿Ves? Y esa es la terminología que tú tienes que usar con los niños en este momento.
Repite la oración otra vez para que la puedan escribir.
Oh, I'm sorry. Que cuando yo, from this one.
De la que tiene los verbos de Bloom's.
Oh, ok. Yo primero quiero que observen, identifiquen, clasifiquen o separen, evalúen, y tú puedes cambiar los verbos como tú quieras, ¿cierto? Porque la idea es cogerlos dependiendo del Bloom's de ese día. Entonces, todos los días tengo mi chart y marco mi chart y escribo los verbos. Pero ¿de dónde sale eso? De mi lectura. Ahora, miran bien, este es el más importante que yo uso. Lo puedes usar desde kinder hasta cuarto. El paso inicial. ¿Qué es el paso inicial? Lo uso con sticky notes. El paso inicial son las cosas que tú encuentras en el libro. ¿Cuántas veces en el examen de STAR o exámenes de unidad, desde primero en adelante, los niños no encuentran esas preguntas que están en el texto? ¿Y cuál es el trabajo de nosotros? Enseñarles dónde encontrarlos. Entonces, lo que yo hago, tenemos la lectura y me tienen que escribir preguntas de cosas que encuentran en el texto. Cuando tienen estas, las tienen que poner el sticky acá. Entonces yo tengo este chart y se me llena de stickies dependiendo del libro que están usando. Cada grupo tiene un chart. Después, cuando ya tengo el paso inicial, está el paso interpretativo. ¿Qué es el paso interpretativo? Cosas que encuentro en el texto, pero yo doy mi opinión. Si no, me voy más allá del texto. Y la misma cosa, hacemos la misma actividad, cogemos los stickies y ellos los van escribiendo acá. ¿Cuántas veces no ha pasado que me ponen los stickies, los revisamos y les digo yo, no, ese no pertenece ahí, vamos a pensar dónde pertenece? Y entonces, ¿qué hacen ellos? Ellos están analizando, están revisándose y después están evaluando lo que ellos están leyendo. Después el paso reflexivo, ¿qué es? Es la conexión que hacen de ese texto con algo que, el contexto del conocido del texto con su conocimiento personal y su experiencia. Entonces ahí es cuando yo traigo todo lo que, mírame, está acá, está el text to self, el text to test y el text to world. Por ejemplo, en este text me recuerda a, este personaje en el texto tiene las mismas características que la idea principal de esta historia era, la idea me recuerda de algo en el mundo de hoy, ¿ves? Entonces, eso es lo que vamos a encontrar nosotros en STAR. Ahora, el último, que es el paso crucial, es analizar y responder desde el punto de vista del escritor, del autor o la audiencia. Entonces, ¿cuál es ese? Esa es la más difícil, porque fíjate cuántas preguntas no hay en el STAR que se relacionan el punto de vista del personaje, del escritor y de nosotros mismos. ¿Okay? Entonces, ellos cuando cogen un texto de esto, ya después de que han hecho su mapa, hacen su escritura, lo desbaratan. Y mire cómo me lo desbaratan para poder entender ese texto. Les digo, cogí niños que estaban por debajo. No podíamos pasar ningún examen. Por eso me moví de kinder para cuarto. Empecé con esta forma en que ellos estaban quebrando el texto. Acabamos de hacer un examen ayer y tengo pues 44 niños en este momento. 78% subió el score de todo el distrito. Imagínate, éramos como casi 28 a 78 y solamente porque constantemente están quebrando ellos el texto y están haciendo mapas y fuera de eso están escribiendo. ¿Okay? Aquí también, entonces, hay más actividades.
Solamente para recordarles que estoy pasando una hojita para que me coloquen su nombre y su email porque les puedo mandar copia de la presentación y copia del video. Entonces, para eso les estoy pasando la hojita para firmar.
Y como, so I continue with the speaking and the same thing with the centers where they're going to be able to draw, they're going to be able to write, they're going to be able to make flashcards, they're going to be able to break the word by syllables, they're going to be able to pick out a story, and they're going to be able to write the story, put it in sentence strips, put it in order, and they're going to be able to find the SH sound, and they're going to be able to create more or make more words in there. Okay, let me see here. And then I'll be able to see the writing. And the writing, I mean, I did writing in all. Yes, because you have to do reading and writing in everyone. But this is more activities that you can do. You can type them. You can record them, and that was the more exciting thing. I didn't do it because my accent, it was horrible. I had to go back to kindergarten. But these kids with that, oh my God, they can hear their accent and they were able to say, no, I don't like the way it sounds. I'm going to do it again. And it's over and over and over. I said, you need to stop. You know, sounds good now. But they want to record, and that's the key. You can record the words, you can record your books, you can record your writing, everything. But remember, you have control, the teacher, because you're the one who's going to assign what to do. Okay? Now, another activity with the writing, so you'll be able to see, they're going to be able to classify, and they're going to be able to sort, you know, sight words, vocabulary words, and then of course, all these things transfer to the centers where they're going to be able to have what kind of center, the instructions for that center, and the final product. So I'm going to switch over there in just a minute, sorry.
We need to get some skating board.
I'm going to. Woo. Okay, so I switch what? Like I tell my kids? Language. Okay. Otra de las actividades que yo hago acá, miren esto, ustedes, ¿quiénes son los que me dijeron que era de kinder? Ok, entonces hicimos la unidad del mar. Entonces, claro, tengo los libros en inglés y en español que se relacionan al mar. Puedo hacer las mismas actividades que estoy haciendo allá, de grabar, de los mismos juegos, solamente cambia la lengua. Entonces, eso es lo bonito de Dual Language. Hey, there we go. Sorry. Ok, entonces mira, estamos hablando escritura de kinder al final del año, no al principio, porque al principio me llegaban los niños, te lo digo de verdad, que yo lo filmé porque no sabía qué era lo que estaba pasando. Mira, yo los puse a poner su nombre y era,
No podía.
yo no podía creer. Yo decía, no, es que no lo creo. Entonces lo filmé. Y cuando voy pasando al otro, y la misma cosa. Y a otro, la misma cosa. Pero ¿sabe qué era lo que hacían? Ah, ¿qué es lo que está pasando ahora? Esto. Pero entonces, ¿qué mejor forma que la tecnología que estamos usando, pero al mismo tiempo que no se nos olvide que tenemos que aprender a escribir, que tenemos que manipular las cosas, que tenemos que saber coger una tijera o coger un lápiz o algo así. Y también que tú vas a poder usar esto con los iPads. Entonces en los iPads tú vas a poder separar el teclado y en el teclado, ¿qué vas a hacer? Y van a hacer al mismo tiempo lo que a ellos les gusta, que es jugar. Pero estamos aprendiendo al mismo tiempo. Entonces, mira, esta actividad era acerca del océano, pero a mí no soy de las personas que me gusta hacer algo bonito y que no, que mira, no. ¿Qué más puedo hacer con esa? Entonces la idea era qué escritura y lectura iba a salir de ahí. Les di un templado y en ese template ellos tenían que seguir siempre las instrucciones y les di una rúbrica. En esa rúbrica ellos tenían que corregirse para poder ¿qué? ¿Qué es lo que pasa en tercero y cuarto cuando toman el examen? Ellos mismos tienen que corregirse, ¿cierto? Para poder entregar un producto final. Pero si los acostumbramos desde pequeños, esto es lo que va a pasar. Miren esta es la almeja. Ahí está la almeja, ¿ves? ¡Qué belleza! Entonces, vea, por ejemplo, esta. Yo tengo un erizo de mar, es redondo y se llama Stephanie. Tiene pétalos para respirar, come plancton y vive en el océano. Le gusta esconderse. ¿Se imagina esa escritura ahí? Ok, entonces mírame la estrella de mar, claro, siempre está conectado los libros, mírame la medusa. ¿Qué tal todo el vocabulario que se adquirió? Pero ese vocabulario también lo cojo yo, ¿de dónde? De todos esos flashcards, que voy a usar y los sonidos para poder enriquecer mi escritura. Ok, voy a pasar a esta área acá. ¿Cuánto tiempo tengo?
Todavía tenemos tiempo.
Ok, voy a pasar para acá, porque les voy a hacer una actividad. Ok, entonces aquí lo mismo en mis centros ya transfiero centros de escritura. And I'm sorry, I forgot. Ok, entonces siempre pongo qué centro voy a estar y mira acá, entonces es tú lo puedes poner con velcro, con cinta y estos se mueven constantemente, los lamino y los tengo en cada estación y ya les tengo las instrucciones, como aquel acá. Pongo las instrucciones dependiendo cuál es la letra que estoy trabajando allí. Uy, mira, la pongo acá y se le ve a ella. Aquí, eso, y acá, que son las que voy a usar, y en todas las actividades. ¿Ok? Entonces, mira, empiezo con los sonidos, la misma actividad de allá, pero esta en español. ¿Sí? No me gusta solamente la misma clase porque los niños se me acostumbran a una sola palabra y no quiero eso. Entonces busco varios modelos de varias compañías para usarla para que ellos puedan decir los sonidos. La misma la quiebro y la tienen que encontrar la palabra que corresponde. Y siempre escribir. Para eso tengo aquí perro, gato y jirafa. ¿Por qué pasa con las jirafas? Son las grandes. Los perros son los medianitos y los gatos son los de la cola para abajo. Entonces, siempre que estamos escribiendo, perro, gato, jirafa. Si necesitan copia de esa, no es sino que me manden un email, se las mando. Ok, este también con las sílabas y la idea, siempre escritura. Míreme esta acá, no solamente el orden para poner con letras magnéticas o con lo que ustedes quieran, pero escribir palabras y cuántas sílabas tiene esa palabra, ¿ok? Y siempre escribiendo. Siempre pongo las direcciones en cada centro, en que sean en inglés y en español, y siempre con una pareja bilingüe para que se puedan ayudar. Si mis centros son en inglés, entonces, ¿quién va a ser? Hay un dominante en inglés. con un dominante ¿en qué? En español. Y así se pueden ayudar cuando estoy haciendo los centros. Ok, mira esta de acá, mira qué tan la rueda silábica. Entonces a todo el mundo los voy a poner a cantar. ¿Listos? Porque como yo no sé, entonces ustedes me van a ayudar. Entonces esta es la T. Entonces, ¿cómo empiezo yo? La T, las vocales en español, las vocales en español. ¿Ustedes?
Las vocales en español. Las vocales en español.
A, E, I, O, U.
A, E, I, O, U.
La T con la A dice ta.
La T con la A dice ta.
La T con la E dice te.
La T con la E dice te.
La T con la I dice ti.
La T con la I dice ti.
La T con la O dice to.
La T con la O dice to.
La T con la U dice tú.
La T con la U dice tú.
Todos. Ta, te, ti, to, tú.
Ta, te, ti, to, tú.
Y inmediatamente empiezo a mostrar flashcards en distinto orden para que pueda hacer fluidez. Mírame esta actividad también acá. Entonces, por ejemplo, ¿esto qué es? Champiñón. Entonces tienen que jalar champiñón. Y aquí la tienen que escribir. Champiñón. ¿Ves? Mírame lo que es. Sticky nose, laminado. Así ellos borran. ¿Los pongo dónde? En un centro. Pero mírenme en esta, la mejor. De la misma cosa que yo hago los sonidos allá y que los transfiero a la escritura y con palabras, mire acá, cojo la palabra y entonces, ¿qué digo? Pongámosle, ¿quién me quiere decir una palabra? Botella, ¿ok? Botella, dilo despacio, botella. ¿Cuántas sílabas? 3 sílabas, dilo rápido.
Botella.
Sonido inicial. Sonido final. Y ahí la escribo. Botella. Dime una oración. Dile a tu compañero una oración con botella. Rápidamente. La botella tiene agua. Dale. No sean. Dile la oración.
Una botella bien grande.
¿Ok?
No fue una buena palabra porque por aquí oigo unos comentarios. Mentira.
I don't want to hear that. No. Ok, una oración. ¿Qué me quiere decir una oración? Rápidamente.
Me tomo la botella esta noche.
Ok, so can I go with you? Ok, me tomo la botella esta noche. Ok, vamos a ver cuántas palabras hay. Me tomo la botella esta noche. Mira que la uso la misma papel para poder usar las palabras. ¿Qué es lo más dificultoso para los niños desde kinder y primero? Es saber la diferencia entre letra, palabra y oración. ¿Ok? Entonces, una de las cosas es que realmente esto lo estamos hablando a 1000 porque es una presentación solamente de 1 hora.
De 55 minutos. Y ahora sí nos quedan 10.
De 55 minutos, pero la idea es que después se va a hacer un professional development en donde podemos desbaratar todo el programa de Open Book, todo el programa de Rock, para que vean todos los libros, para que vean la lista que tiene, si tú quieres ficción, no ficción, la clase de género que quieras, la clase de objetivo que tú necesites, pero mírenme lo que voy a mostrarles, lo que hice yo al final de sus proyectos.
Pues si quieres muéstrale las diapositivas porque al final va a estar la foto de la diapositiva. Esto es como un resumen de lo que hemos hablado hasta ahora. Acuérdense que de los centros que se hicieron en inglés, se hicieron aplicaciones de esas palabras en lecturas en español. Se integró los pasos de la taxonomía de Bloom's para que en cada una de las experiencias del niño hubiera adquisición del conocimiento en un modelo más elevado. Y la rueda que está a la mano derecha de todas las diapositivas nos está mostrando cómo las actividades deben cambiar dependiendo del nivel de proficiencia del niño. Si en este momento, por ejemplo, cuando estamos utilizando lo que estaba ya mostrando con respecto al libro y la aplicación del libro, pues estábamos hablando de niños que tuvieran una proficiencia un poquito más alta que los niños que están haciendo los libros que tienen sencillamente una palabra en especial y solamente con esa palabra se usa la lectura. Si quieres, pasa a la siguiente.
Ya este fue uno de los centros que hicimos. Ya tú ves a los niños en el laboratorio y les fascina. No ven la hora de ir y buscar el libro y fuera de eso que tienen que examinarse, pero no les importa porque quieren escoger más y más libros cada vez. Mira acá, ahí ella escogiendo el libro que le quiere y proyectos, ven cómo tienen que escribir los mapas y mira la escritura y fue de ese grupo de 3 y de último ellos tenían que hacer un proyecto y tenían que hacer libros grandes. Entonces pueden coger toda la información y crear sus libros grandes en este momento ya para Thanksgiving y mira cómo se convierten esos libros y los pueden laminar, escribir el texto, lo escriben en su computadora, porque fíjate que ahí está el programa de escribir y fuera de eso después se vuelve esto un libro. Espera, yo me quito los anteojos.
Voy a pasarlos para que los vayan mirando. Son trabajos que hicieron los niños en el salón después de que trabajaron todo el proceso de la escritura para crear sus propios libros.
Les voy a mostrar un momento. Les voy a explicar. Este fue el último que hicimos apenas la semana pasada. Entonces todo fue acerca del estado de Texas. Miren lo que tenían que hacer con un compañero. Este fue su centro. Aquí ellos tenían que hacer la idea principal y los detalles. Estamos hablando de 4 capítulos. Tenían que buscar los libros que se relacionaban con Texas. Escogieron de Rogue libros de Álamo, libros de ciertos personajes y aquí en este 2 escribieron el vocabulario más importante. Las definiciones usando el diccionario donde te daba la definición aquí en vocabulario. Aquí escoger 4 personajes importantes y buscar, hacer el research de sus biografías. Aquí ellos tenían que hechos ideas principales de todos los 4 capítulos acerca de Texas. Aquí ellos tenían que escribirle una carta. Yo te estaba oyendo a ti, donde estaban hablando con personas de otras partes del mundo. Aquí ellos tenían que invitar a alguien y enseñarles acerca del estado de Texas, a alguien que nunca lo ha visto. Y tenían que escribir un poema acerca de un animal o una planta de Texas. ¿Qué es lo que estoy haciendo yo? Cubriendo todas las áreas que necesito para que ellos pasen el STAR. Y aquí ellos tenían que crear un póster de media para que salvaran y conservaran el agua, pero me tenían que explicar cómo hicieron ese póster y cuál era la racionalidad de ese póster. Y ya los últimos, una evaluación acerca de su capítulo. Esto fue lo que hicieron ahora en cuarto como trabajo final. Ese tomó 2 semanas, porque tenían que hacer mucho research y lo hacíamos, lo que hago es After School Enrichment, entonces cojo todo lo de Rogue y lo de Open Book para que ellos empiecen a encontrar la información y hagan todo lo que necesite, junto con el currículo que yo hago en mi distrito.
And
Cuarto.
I know that you probably have some questions, but this room is like Cinderella, and it is about 5 minutes and everything will fall off. We program everything that's on the walls to fall right off as soon as we have to leave, because I know there's another group that's coming. So we want you to stop by the booth. We have a booth, and the materials that are in the booth will help you to actually see the technology working, which we didn't have time to show today. But now you know how you can apply that technology to what you practice in the classroom.
Apúrate
Is
que
the
tenemos
booth,
que desbaratar.
what number out there, or is inside? Is the one that is inside, right?
Si quieren tomar fotos rápido
You
que
can
antes de
take
quitarlos.
pictures, and here's our emails. The signing sheet, was there a signing sheet going on? There's a group that has not signed yet, and they want the video.